A small bell rang once inside the deep space monitoring station at the edge of the Saul system. It was a soft sound, the kind nobody usually noticed. But Dr. Hadia Roth noticed. She always did. She had been watching the same dark patch of space for 9 quiet years, and a single bell from her console meant something had changed. She turned in her chair and tapped the screen. 12 dots had appeared where there should be nothing. They were too neat to be asteroids, too still to be comets, too large to be debris. Hadia sat very still for a long moment, then sent a clean, calm message to Earth. 12 unknown objects saw edge, not ours. She did not panic. Panic was a luxury for people who had time. She did the next correct thing instead. She started recording everything far beyond Hades' station. Those 12 dots were not dots at all. They were warships. The lead vessel was the Sundered Crown, the flagship of the Tavari Imperium. The ship was the size of a small moon plated in gold-veined alloy glowing with the pride of 40,000 years of empire. Inside its grand observation dome stood High Observer Ranvish, hands folded behind his back, eyes fixed on the small blue planet at the center of his screen. Rin was a careful Tavari. He had spent his life studying primitive worlds before the Imperium absorbed them. He had seen mud-walled cities, stone temples, and steam-driven boats. He knew the pattern. A pre-contact species was easy to read. They were loud in radio, clumsy in orbit, and absent in deep space. They had no fold drives, no orbital rings, no lunar industry. They were always alone on their little rock, and they always looked very small from above. Earth did not look small. Rand frowned at the readings. Earth had an orbital ring. Earth had lunar facilities. Earth had ships moving in Tashient, organized lanes between the planet and its moon. Rand checked the data 3 times. He even asked the ship's senior analyst to run a fault test on the long-range sensors. The analyst did then quietly returned and said, "The sensors are fine. High Observer." Rin did not answer right away. He kept staring at Earth. Fleet Commander Ataru entered the dome with the heavy steps of a soldier who expected obedience. He was tall, broad, and proud of his medals, which clinked it softly as he walked. Ataru had crushed 3 rebellions and pacified 2 unruly colonies. He believed deeply in the Imperium's superiority, and he did not enjoy surprises. "Report," Ataru said. Rin did not turn. "The target world is not Precantar blinked. Explain. They have an orbital ring. They have lunar industry. They have ships." Ataru laughed once, short and dry. "Impossible. The advanced probes told us this world was on the early edge of space travel. Chemical rockets, small satellites, nothing more. The probes were sent 214 imperial cycles ago," Rand said gently. Adaru's smile faded. 214 imperial cycles was nothing for a Tavari. The Imperium changed slowly. A border world might rise or fall in 200 cycles, but its science would not leap. Tavari science had not leapt in a long, long time. The Imperium was old, and old empires did not run. Ataru walked to the screen and stared at the planet himself. The orbital ring was clearly visible now. Small, bright dots moved along its length like beads sliding on a thread. "Show me their ships," he said. Rin pulled up the optical feed. The image sharpened. Earth's vessels came into focus. They were not ugly, not crude, not simple. They were sleek, white, and quiet. Their drive signatures were soft, almost shy, as if the engines did not want to be noticed. Ataru leaned closer. He had seen 10,000 ships in his career. He did not recognize a single design principle on the screen. "What is the propulsion type?" he asked. The senior analyst spoke from her station, her voice careful. "Commander, the propulsion type does not match any of our records. The drive output is extremely low, but the ships are moving very fast. The numbers do not agree with our physics." "Run it again," said. "I have 3 times." Rand closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he opened them and asked the question no Tavari had asked in 400 generations. He asked it softly, almost to himself, but the dome was quiet enough that everyone heard. "What if we are not the most advanced?" Ataru turned sharply. "Watch your tongue, Observer. I am watching the screen, Commander. The screen is telling me something I did not expect." Ataru did not reply. He looked back at Earth. The little blue planet sat there calm and patient, its ring glowing softly, its moon humming with steady industry. It did not look afraid of the 12 warships at its border. It did not even seem to notice them. It noticed them. In a quiet operations room on Earth, Hadia's message had already moved up 3 levels of command. Captain Daniel Reeve received it with his second cup of green tea of the morning. He read the message twice, set the cup down, and spoke into his collar. 12 ships at the Saul edge run the protocol. Soft posture, eyes open, no hostile signal. His voice was even. He did not raise it. He did not need to. On the sundered crown, Ran was still watching Earth. Ataru was still pretending he was not worried. The Tavari Imperium believed it had discovered a primitive world. Earth had already discovered them, and Earth was making tea. 3 small drones slipped out of the sundered crown's lower hangar like silver fish leaving a great whale. They were optical scouts, the finest the Imperium produced, each one cloaked in a quiet field that bent light around its body. To Tavari eyes, they were almost invisible. To Tavari science, they were the eyes of an empire. The drones drifted toward Earth in a slow, careful arc. Inside the sundered crown, the bridge gathered to watch the live feed. Ran stood at the center console. Ataru stood beside him, arms folded, jaw tight. Senior officers filled the rear platforms. The dome lights were dimmed so the screen shone bright and clean. The first drone reached the outer marker of Earth's orbital lane. Its camera turned, focused, and brought back the picture. Nobody on the bridge spoke. Earth's orbital ring was not a ring at all in the Tavari sense. It was a long, slim band of pale white metal rotating gently around the planet at a steady speed. Lights ran along it like soft veins. Small craft slid into and out of it through narrow gates, and each gate opened and closed without any visible mechanism. The ring looked simple. That was the part that disturbed Ran the most. Tavari rings were huge, heavy, and full of visible engines. Earth's ring looked like a thin, clean curve of light, and yet it held its shapes against gravity, against tidal force, against everything that should pull it apart. The ring, Adaru said slowly, should not be standing. And yet it stands, Ran said. The second drone moved closer to the moon. The picture changed. The lunar surface was no longer the dead gray rock the Tavari probes had recorded centuries ago. Wide silver platforms lay across the dust. Long shadows of cranes moved with patient grace. Furnaces glowed gently in deep craters. A single, large vessel was being built inside a half-open dome. Its hull half-finished, its frame still showing through. They mine and build there. The senior analyst whispered, "Without atmosphere, without trouble." "Of course, without trouble," Otaru said. "Every advanced species does that. It is not impressive." But his voice was a little less certain than before. The third drone moved into a higher angle and began counting human ships. The count climbed quickly. 7 near the ring, 4 near the moon, 2 in a slow patrol along Earth's outer orbit, 1 sitting still far out watching. That last one was the one that drew Rin's attention. It was small, pale, and quiet. It had no visible weapons. It had no glowing engines. It just sat there, patient and calm like a dog watching a stranger from a distance. "Send the analyzer pulse," Adaru ordered. The analyzer pulse was a Tavari trick. An invisible scan that read the structure of any ship it touched. The Imperium had used it for thousands of years. No species had ever blocked it. The pulse went out. The bridge waited. The screen showed a single line of text. "Pulse blocked. No return data." Adaru's mouth opened. He closed it again. "Send another one," he said. A second pulse went out. The screen showed the same line. "Pulse blocked. No return data." Rin did not smile because Tavari did not smile in such moments, but something inside his chest moved. It was not fear, it was not pride. It was the strange, clean feeling of a careful man watching the universe turn into something new. He pulled up the propulsion data from the third drone. The numbers came in. The drive output of the small, patient ship was almost nothing. The engine was barely warm. Yet the ship was holding a perfect orbit at a velocity that Tavari math said required at least a high-output fold core. Commander Rand said their drives are quiet. What do you mean, quiet? They use very little energy, but they do very much. Our books say this is impossible. Then our books are wrong, or their numbers are wrong. Our books are not wrong, Commander. We wrote them carefully. Adaru was silent for a long moment. He stared at the small patient ship. It stared back in its own quiet way. In the operations room on Earth, Captain Daniel Reeves sipped his tea and watched 3 soft pings light up his board. 3 Tavari pulses, 3 Tavari attempts to read his ship. He had felt none of them, but his ship had. The quiet, patient vessel was called the Merper, and it was not quiet because it was weak. It was quiet because it chose to be. Daniel turned to his communications officer. Open a soft channel. No threat tone. Just say hello. Yes, sir. In which language? Daniel thought for a moment. All of them let them pick. A soft signal moved out from the Merpur, polite and patient, carrying greetings in over 6 zeros in human languages and 3 carefully chosen tones of welcome. On the sundered crown, the bridge alarms chimed gently. The communications officer turned, surprised. High Observer, Fleet Commander, we are being hailed. Rand's eyes widened. By whom? By them, sir, by the small ship, the one that blocked our pulse. Adaru's hands tightened behind his back. The Imperium always opened first contact. The Imperium always set the tone. Smaller species waited. Smaller species answered. This time, the small species had spoken first. Put it on the dome, Rand said. The voice that filled the great gold chamber was calm and warm with no trace of fear. Tavari fleet, welcome to our system. Please confirm peaceful intent. We have prepared a meeting platform. Tea is ready. Rand blinked. Ataru opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Tea, he said. The voice replied gently. Yes. Tea, please bring an open mind. The neutral platform was built in 11 hours. It hung in empty space exactly halfway between the human fleet and the Tavari fleet. A clean white disk with soft amber lighting and one round table at its center. Speaker Lion of the Imperial Diplomatic Order arrived in a long silver shuttle, expecting the human structure to be crude. She had read the briefing. She had memorized the proper words for accepting Earth's submission. She had already chosen the tone of voice she would use when humanity bowed. When her shuttle docked, the platform doors opened without a sound. There was no clang, no hiss, no mechanical breath. The doors simply parted like calm water. Lion walked through them with 2 aides at her side and stopped. The room was warm, not heated by vents, warm in the way a quiet kitchen is warm. The air was the perfect Tavari temperature. The gravity was the perfect Tavari pull. The light was the perfect Tavari shade. None of these things should have been possible at the same time, because Lion's aides were Tavari, and the human waiting at the table was very clearly not. The human stood up politely. He was not tall. He was not armored. He wore a plain gray jacket with no medals. He smiled with his eyes more than his mouth, and he gestured to the chair across from him. Welcome, Speaker Liony, he said. His Tavari was excellent. His tone was relaxed. I am Captain Daniel Reeve. Please sit. Lion sat carefully. Her aides remained standing. On the table sat a small white pot, 2 small cups, and a tray of pale biscuits. The pot steamed gently. The biscuits looked like nothing in the Imperial Archive. Tea, Daniel asked. I do not require refreshment, Lion said in her practiced diplomatic voice. It is not a requirement, Daniel said gently. It is an offering. Leonie paused. She had not expected to be corrected. She had been the one trained to do the correcting. She inclined her head and accepted the small cup. Daniel poured. The tea was a soft amber color and smelled of herbs. Lion did not know. She did not drink yet. She watched. Speaker, Daniel said, settling back. Before we begin the formal portion, I should point out something small. The room has adjusted to your aides. Please do not be alarmed. Leonie glanced at her 2 aides. Both were standing comfortably. Both should have been suffering. Tavari and humans did not share the same air pressure preferences, the same gravity tolerances, or the same light spectra. A Tavari aide on a human ship should have been wearing a full atmosphere suit. These 2 were wearing only their formal robes. How, Liony said carefully. Is the room doing this? Daniel waved at a small gray box on the wall. The box was the size of a folded cloth. It had no lights, no display, no buttons. It looked like a household appliance. "That is a comfort module," he said. "It manages atmosphere, gravity, and light for any body in the room. It reads each visitor and adjusts in real time. It is a civilian unit." Lion looked at the box, then at Daniel, then at the box again. The Imperium's environmental systems for mixed species meetings filled entire rooms. They required dedicated power lines, 3 operators, and constant monitoring. Speaker Lion had once led a 6-species summit where the environmental rig was larger than the conference table. "This box," she said slowly, "manages all of that." "Yes," Daniel said, "for multiple species at once." "Yes," with no operator. "It is a household unit," Daniel said again very kindly, as if he was worried she had not heard him. The door opened and a young woman walked in carrying a small toolkit. She had warm brown skin, neat dark hair, and a relaxed walk. She nodded to Daniel and to Lion. "Engineer Priya call." Daniel said, "She maintains the platform." "Speaker," Priya said with a small respectful bow. "I am only here to check the comfort module. 3 years out of date. I want to make sure the calibration is still good for your aids." Lion's hand froze on her teacup. 3 years out of date," she repeated. "Yes, ma'am. We should have replaced it last cycle, but it still runs well. Sometimes the old ones are gentler. The new model adjusts a little too fast and gives people headaches." Lion's 2 aides exchanged a small Tavari glance. The glance said many things in their silent language. The chief as among them was, "This is a serious problem." Priya opened the panel of the small gray box. Inside was almost nothing. A few thin layers of crystal, a soft ribbon of light, no fans, no coils, no wiring of the kind Tavari engineering used. Priya hummed softly, ran a small finger sensor over the layers, nodded to herself, and closed the panel. "All good," she said. "Enjoy your meeting." She left. Lion slowly raised her cup. Her hand was steady. Her training was good, but inside her chest, something had begun to turn. "Captain Reeve," she said, "I came here today to formally accept Earth into the Imperium." Daniel set down his cup. He did not laugh. He did not look offended. He simply tilted his head a little, the way a kind teacher tilts his head at a confused student. "Speaker," he said gently, "I think we should talk about that more carefully." Leone drank her tea. It was very good. She did not say so out loud. She did not need to. Daniel could already tell. The Joint Science Exchange was held inside a wide hall on the human orbital ring. The hall had a clear curved ceiling, and through it the planet Earth turned slowly below, a calm blue ball with white clouds drifting across its face. 12 Tavari scientists arrived in formal robes, led by High Observer Ronan himself. 8 human researchers were already waiting, wearing simple work clothes and quiet smiles. There was no stage. There was no podium. There were only 2 long tables, one on each side, and a wide, empty floor in the middle. Rin walked in first. He bowed politely. He had decided on the way over that he would respect these humans. He had also decided that he would prove calmly and with kindness that the Imperium still held the higher ground in the deep sciences. "Welcome, friends," said the lead human researcher, a tall older man with white hair and warm eyes. His name was Dr. Assad Mahmoud. Shall we begin?" The Tavari went first. They had agreed on this beforehand. Rand stepped to the empty floor and gestured to his team. A young Tavari assistant rolled out a tall cylinder of polished gold metal. It was a full drive core, a small one, a teaching model. The Imperium did not show fold drive cores to outsiders. Today was different. Today, Rin wanted to make a fair exchange. He explained the core. He spoke about the way fold space worked, the way the Imperium had bent it for 40,000 years. The great care needed to balance the lattice. The humans listened with full attention. They did not interrupt. They did not look bored. They asked clean, polite questions. Their questions were good. Some were better than good. When Rand finished, the lead human researcher clapped softly. "Beautiful work, High Observer, truly beautiful." Rin was pleased. He returned to his seat. Then the humans stepped forward. Dr. Assad Mahmoud gestured to a young woman beside him. She wore a plain dark coat. Her hair was tied back. She held a small device in her hand. The device was about the size of a closed fist. "This," she said gently, "is a field repair tool. It is standard equipment on our maintenance ships." She looked around. Her eyes settled on a piece of bent imperial alloy that the Tavari team had brought as a sample. The alloy was a small flat plate twisted in the middle from a controlled stress test. It would normally take an Imperial forge 3 days to repair such a plate without losing the alloy's lattice strength. The young woman placed the small device against the plate. She tapped a single button. There was a soft hum, no brighter than a sleeping cat. The bend in the metal began to move slowly, smoothly. The metal flowed back into its proper shape. The lattice did not crack. The alloy did not lose color. After 11 seconds, the plate was perfect. It looked new. It looked, in fact, slightly better than new. The Tavari side of the room was silent. The young woman set the device down. "This is a basic civilian model," she said. "Engineers use stronger ones." Rand stood up slowly. He walked to the plate. He touched it. He ran his finger along the spot where the bend had been. There was no scar, no seam, no grain misalignment. "How?" he said. "Did the lattice survive?" "It did not survive," she said kindly. "It was rebuilt." The tool reads the original lattice memory of the alloy and asks the molecules to return to it. "Ask the molecules," Rin repeated. "Yes, sir." Rin did not speak for a long moment. He sat down again. His hands were folded carefully in his lap. The humans were not finished. A small gray drone the size of a teacup flew up from the floor. It floated in the air without any visible thrust. It was so quiet that the Tavari scientists could hear each other breathing. It moved to the center of the room. "This is a survey drone," said another human researcher. "May I run a courtesy scan of your ship, the Sundered Crown?" Rand blinked. "From here, yes. Through the hull. Yes, the Sundered Crown was the most heavily shielded vessel in the Imperial fleet. Its outer plating could deflect a planetary-grade scan beam." "Please," Rand said quietly. "Go ahead." The drone flew up, paused, and made a single slow circle in the air. Less than a minute later, a soft holographic image appeared above it. The image was the Sundered Crown drawn in clean lines with every deck, every corridor, every wire, every junction box in perfect detail. Even the small private chamber where Fleet Commander Ataru kept his personal logs was visible, including the cup of broth he had left on his desk that morning. The Tavari scientist stared at the hologram. "You can see Adaru's broth," one of them whispered. "Yes," the human researcher said gently. "We can also see that there is a small flaw in your fold drive lattice on deck 9. The lattice has a hairline misalignment that will, in about 2,000 cycles, reduce your jump efficiency by 1%. We could send you the repair specification if you would like." Rand closed his eyes. The Imperial Council had been hunting that exact flaw for 600 years. It was the great unsolved problem of Tavari fold engineering. Whole careers had been built and broken trying to find it. A small gray drone in less than 1 minute had found it as a courtesy. Rin opened his eyes. He looked at Dr. Assad Mahmoud. Dr. Rand said, his voice was steady but very soft. "Please send the specification." "Of course," Dr. Muhammad said. Rand bowed his head around the table. Every Tavari scientist did the same. The Imperium had come to teach. The Imperium was learnings instead. News travels fast in the Imperium, but bad news travels faster. Within 3 Imperial cycles, every counselor on Tavar Prime had received the recordings from Earth. The repair tool, the survey drone, the hairline flaw in the fold drive lattice, the cup of broth on Fleet Commander Adaru's desk, the council chamber, a great hall of black stone and gold inlays, was full long before the official summoning bell. The chamber was built in a circle. 48 high seats lined the walls, one for each of the Imperium's senior counselors. At the center stood a low platform where speakers presented their reports. Above the platform, a great holographic ring projected images for all to see. Today, the ring showed Earth. Counselor Giovanni, the oldest hardliner in the chamber, struck the floor with his staff. The bell rang. "Bring forward the witness," he said. High Observer Rin walked into the circle. He had been called back from the Sundered Crown by special transport. He looked tired but calm. He carried a small data crystal in his hand. He stepped onto the central platform and bowed once to the chamber. Honored counselors, he began. I have returned with the recordings of our exchange with the human species, the inhabitants of the world they call Earth. Spare us the formalities, Gvani said. Show the recordings. Rand nodded. He placed the crystal into the platform reader. The holographic ring above him filled with images. The chamber watched the repair tool reshaped the imperial alloy plate. There were soft sounds of disbelief from the high seats. The chamber watched the survey drone draw the perfect map of the Sundered Crown in less than a minute. There were sharper sounds of alarm. The chamber watched the small gray comfort module quietly hold 3 different species in 3 different sets of conditions inside one room. The chamber watched Speaker Lyon's calm face as she sat across from Captain Reeve, drinking tea, her plans collapsing politely around her. When the recordings ended, the chamber was silent. Giovanni struck the floor with his staff again. Harder this time. This is a deception, he said. These humans are using tricks, stage performances, lights, and mirrors. The Imperium has stood for 40,000 years. No backwater species can leap over us in such a short time. A younger counselor named Velna stood up. Her robes were soft blue, the color of the moderate faction. Honored Giovanni, she said with respect, the recordings are not edited, the data is verified. Our own engineers have confirmed the hairline flaw on Deck 9 of the Sundered Crown. The humans found it in less than a minute. We have been hunting it for 600 years. Giovanni's mouth tightened. Then perhaps our engineers are corrupt. Or perhaps, Velna said gently, the humans are simply ahead of us. A low murmur ran around the chamber. It was a dangerous murmur. It was the sound of 40,000 years of certainty beginning to crack. Giovanni turned to Ran. High Observer, speak plainly. Are these humans a threat? Ran considered the question carefully. He knew that everything he said would be recorded, copied, and remembered for centuries. Honored counselor, he said, the humans are not a threat. They have not raised a weapon. They have not shown a fleet. They have not made a demand. They have only offered tea, conversation, and a free repair specification for our flagship. And yet, Giovanni said, they are dangerous. Yes, Rand said, because they are kind and they are far ahead of us. A weak kind species is easy to ignore. A strong, cruel species is easy to fight. A strong, kind species is the hardest thing in the universe to face because they make us look at ourselves. The chamber was very quiet. A senior counselor named A.M., who had not spoken in 12 years, slowly stood. The whole chamber turned to him. A.M. had been on the council longer than anyone else. He had served 3 emperors. He never spoke unless he meant it. I have heard enough, A.M. said. His voice was thin but clear. For 40,000 years we have told ourselves a story. The story said we were the most advanced. The story said we were the wisest. The story said the galaxy bent to our shape. He paused. The story, A.M. said, was wrong. Giovanni opened his mouth. A.M. raised one hand. Do not speak yet, Giovanni. Listen first. We have one chance to handle this well. We have one chance to be remembered as a wise empire instead of a foolish one. We must approach Earth as equals. We must learn. And if Earth chooses to be our friend, we must thank the stars for the gift. The chamber held its breath. Giovanni lowered his head. He did not agree, but he did not fight either. That was its own answer. While the council debated, the Sundered Crown still sat in Earth's outer system. Fleet Commander Adaru paced his private chamber. His broth was cold. He had not touched it. He was a soldier, and soldiers did not enjoy uncertainty. A soft chime sounded. The communications officer's voice came through. Commander, we are receiving a courtesy message from the human vessel Merpor. Captain Reeves sends his greetings. He wishes to know if you would like to share a meal. Adaru stared at the small speaker on his wall. A meal? He repeated. Yes, Commander, he says, and I quote, no politics, just food. Adaru sat down slowly. He looked at his cold broth. He thought about the small gray drone that had seen it from across the system. He thought about Aem's words. He thought for the first time in his life that perhaps he had something to learn. "Tell Captain Reeve," he said quietly, "that I accept." Snow was falling in northern Pakistan when the second Tavari delegation landed. It was a soft, slow snow, the kind that drifts down without any wind, settling on cedar branches and slate roofs like a quiet blessing. The delegation had asked politely to meet not in space, but on the planet itself. Speaker Lyon had requested the location personally. She wanted to see Earth with her own eyes, not through a window, not through a screen. A small wooden lodge sat at the edge of a high valley. Inside, a fire was crackling. The delegation arrived in a quiet shuttle, walked across the snowy path, and stepped through the lodge door without ceremony. Dr. Hadia Roth was waiting for them. She wore a warm gray shawl over a long, dark coat. She offered her guests a seat near the fire. "Speaker Lyony," Hadia said gently, "welcome to Earth." Lyon bowed her head. The bow was deeper than the one she had given before. Beside her stood Atham himself, the senior counselor who had insisted on coming. Atham had not left Tavar Prime in 40 imperial cycles. He looked at the snow with great interest, like a child seeing something for the first time. A young Tavari aide carried a small tray of sweet biscuits, a gift from the home world. Hadia accepted it with both hands. "Please," she said. "Set, eat. There is no rush." They sat. The fire crackled outside. The snow kept falling. For a long while, nobody spoke. It was a comfortable silence, not a heavy one. Finally, Lyon sat down her cup of tea. She looked at Hadia with steady, honest eyes. "Doctor," she said, "I have one question. The Imperium has watched you carefully now. We have seen your tools, your ships, your ring, your moon factories, your quiet drones. We have seen your kind manners, your patience, your tea. We have read our records of your past. 40 imperial cycles ago, you had only chemical rockets. Today, you can see through our holes and read our broth. How did your species reach this level so quickly?" Hadia smiled. It was a small, gentle smile, the kind of smile a teacher gives to a student who has finally asked the right question. "We had no easy world, Speaker," she said. "Our planet was harsh in many places, hot deserts, cold mountains, dark forests, deep oceans. We had ice ages and floods. We had diseases. We had no kind ancestors waiting for us with gifts. We had no ancient empires to teach us. We had to figure out everything ourselves the slow, hard way. And yet you moved fast." Lyon said we moved fast because we were always uncomfortable. Hadia said we did not have time to be still. Each generation of humans built on the last. Each one tried to be a little kinder, a little smarter, a little better. We failed often. We made many mistakes. We hurt each other and we hurt our world, but we kept going. We kept fixing things. We kept asking questions. We had no choice. The universe was not gentle with us, so we became gentle with each other instead. Aem leaned forward. His old eyes were soft. "Doctor," he said, "why did you not destroy yourselves?" Hadia looked into the fire. "We almost did more than once, but every time we came close, someone reminded us of the small things. A child laughing, a cup of tea offered to a stranger, a garden in spring. We remembered what we were trying to protect. So we stopped. We tried again." Lyon's eyes filled with something that was almost, but not quite tears. Tavari did not cry as humans did. They had a different way. Their breath grew slow and their hands grew very still. Lyon's hands were very still. Speaker Hadia said gently, "Your Imperium is 40,000 years old. We are a young species, but age is not the only measure. A river is older than a young tree, but the tree still grows fruit." Aem made a soft sound. It was the Tavari version of a laugh. It was the first laugh he had made in many years. "Forgive me, Doctor," he said. "I am old and I have learned to listen late in life, but I am listening now." Hadia bowed her head respectfully. The meeting continued for many hours. They spoke of trade, of shared research, of medicine, of art. Hadia spoke of music. Am spoke of the long Tavari poems. Leonie asked about the children of Earth, and Hadia showed her pictures of small ones playing in green parks. Leonie held the pictures for a long time before giving them back. By the time the snow stopped falling, the afternoon was old and the sky was turning a soft pink. The delegation rose. They had stayed longer than planned. Nobody minded. At the door of the lodge, Lion paused. She turned back to Hadia. "Doctor," she said softly, "when we return to the Imperium, our story will change forever. The Council will speak of this day for 1,000 years. Then make it a good story, Speaker." Hadia said, "We will try." The Tavari shuttle lifted gently from the snowy field and rose into the pink sky. Far above the planet, the sundered crown waited. Fleet Commander Ataru, who had shared a quiet meal with Captain Reeve the night before, watched the small shuttle climb. He did not feel proud anymore. He did not feel small either. He felt, perhaps, for the first time in his career, simply curious. The sundered crown turned. Its great gold hull caught the sunlight one last time. Then, with a soft and humble flicker, it folded into deep space, carrying back to the Imperium the most disruptive discovery in 40,000 years. The galaxy's quietest world had been all along its most extraordinary. And Earth, calm and patient, kept turning. The kettle was already on for the next guest.